They hate when you elevate.
Yep. Salute. ATP, it's your boy Claymore Rain back at you guys with another one. Yeah, shout out to all my subscribers. Shout out to all the support, all the love. Channel's doing all right? Moving forward, we're doing some things. If this is your first time tapping into the content, I'm going to start off by inviting you. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit your bell icons as well, so you are getting alerts when all this content is dropping. So let's talk about it. Let me check one more thing here in my settings here just to make sure we're all on point. Looks like we are. All right. So Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach, New York press conference is in the books. Yeah, it's in the books. It's definitely in the books. Thing of the past. It's happened. If you guys are under a rock somewhere, Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach kick off and roll out their campaign on a fight that they're going to be having on March 1st. Keep in mind, this fight is a fight being pushed out from December 14th this month, which was, really, we should have been looking forward to seeing this fight coming up this weekend or maybe next weekend. I don't know. I'm not looking at a calendar, but it should have been coming up soon. And it's not. The boxing space, all the fans, everybody, rumors running around as to why this didn't take place. Why wasn't this fight taking place, being that Gervonta Tank Davis is such an anticipated fighter, a face of boxing, a person who's, one of the biggest stars, if not the biggest star in boxing today. And, this event that was supposed to be in the Toyota Super Center in Houston, Texas was pushed out, right? Rumors out that there were potential venue issues. These were the words that were used to describe the reason as to why this fight didn't happen at the Toyota Super Center. Now, speculation has been running through the space in multiple different directions as to what venue issue could mean. And obviously a lot of content creators, even me myself, I got to be honest with you, felt like the venue issue was something that was a little too broad, a little too general. One might think if you say venue issues that there was problems with the venue, as research was done to say that the venue was available. If I'm correct, the venue may still be available. I don't know. I haven't checked, but it was definitely available around the time when this fight was postponed. Gervonta Tank Davis communicating through Twitter that this fight was still moving forward, that everybody should expect this fight to move as planned. So a lot of people were a little just confused as to what was rumored towards what was fact, but ultimately information came out that this fight was going to get moved out of Houston and now going to be in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. So where are we right now? After a press conference that just went down, where are we? Well, look, going into a Gervonta Tank Davis press conference, you never know what to expect, right? Gervonta Tank Davis is a very animated person when he wants to be, sometimes funny, sometimes serious, sometimes scary, sometimes pleasant, right? Well, going into this particular press conference, I can tell you, me going into it, I kind of kept my options open as far as what I thought was going to happen, but I was expecting to see a little bit more anticipation, or people might have anticipated to see that. And it did seem as if the event wasn't as well. Let's go down and let's just talk on some key points, right? First of all, the press conference was delayed. It was supposed to be, from what I understood, at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in New York. It was moved out for whatever reason. Now, we know Gervonta Tank Davis has not been a person that's brand new to making a late entrance. When you're a star of the show and you know the show's depending on you, it can't move forward without you, it's expected. So Tank pushes it out. The notification goes out that this press conference will be around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 p.m. Everybody shows up. Obviously, all the YouTube family and everybody is showing up to see this press conference. Content creators are opening up their platforms, allowing some real live time press conference coverage with panels. And the event's not here yet. You look at your clock, 4:30 is here, no event. 5 o'clock, I'm not too sure, somewhere between 5:30. It seems like the event did finally kick off. Very lackluster, as Tank Davis and Lamont Roach were at the press conference. Lamont Roach comes with his trainer father to the press conference, but funny enough, Funny enough, you didn't see Kenny Ellis or Calvin Ford there with Tank Davis at this press conference. Now, keep in mind, this is in New York, and Baltimore, a few hours away. You would think that you would see them. I think that's what going into a press conference, you'd want to see the team up there representing with the fighter. Everybody's in unison, one accord. It's a movement ready to make this fight happen. But we did not see Calvin Ford at this press conference, nor do we see Kenny Ellis at the press conference. There was a gentleman there from who I understand, I didn't write his name down, but a gentleman who was was actually the I guess manager, or maybe he holds some sort of role. He was identified and called out as a CEO of GTD Promotions, but he did correct the announcer and said he wasn't the CEO, that Gervonta Tank Davis was actually the CEO of GTD Promotions. But I'm assuming he holds some sort of role. He plays his position in one part or another in GTD Promotions, which was weird. We've never seen Tank Davis do a press conference and come out in that way. And to be honest with you, when you look at Gervonta Tank Davis, he did look a little thrown, just a little bit off his square where you would normally see him. Didn't seem like he was particularly focused on the press conference. Seems like he was more distracted, we'll say, right? A little bit looking like maybe he might have lost some sleep or just woke up. Just didn't look right, really. And this really didn't have that push that we would expect from Tank Davis. Wasn't as animated, to say the least, in the beginning of this press conference. But look, nonetheless, the announcer did his job. Information, questions are being asked, and Tank is being pretty forthright with his information. Every now and then he got a little tight-lipped about certain things, but for the most part was forthright with the information he gave back to the space. I think the biggest thing that came, and I walked away from this press conference thinking about, was Tank being asked what should people expect from him in 2025. Now, keep this in mind, coming off the back end of a very lackluster year. The only fight Tank Davis had this year was in March against Frank Martin, right? And this fight was supposed to be the second fight this year, December 14th, but it gets pushed out all the way to March. So I think rightfully so, a legitimate question was, what could we expect from you in 2025? Well, Tank took his time, thought about it as he looked in the air and tried to find his thoughts. And what he put in there, he said, listen, man, I'm expecting 2025 to be my last year. And the guy asked again, double down. He said, my last year in this. What, boxing? Yes, he says. So Tank Davis puts out some interesting information saying that next year would be his last year that he's actually expecting to be boxing. Well, I think if anybody's been paying attention to the sport, to the last time Tank Davis was in front of a press conference or had any type of reporters in his face, he said he had a 6-fight deal, right? This is what unless it was a rumor, I don't know, maybe Tank didn't say that, maybe the people around him said that, I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure I saw at least Sekback confirm with Tank that there was a large deal, 6-fight plus deal. Everybody knows how PBC has just made a new deal and a new partnership, we can say, with Amazon Prime, and that this deal with Amazon Prime was going to be bigger than the deal that he had locked in with the deal that Floyd Mayweather actually had locked in when he first signed with Showtime. Well, if you guys aren't aware, Floyd Mayweather had signed a deal with Showtime that I believe was over $200 million, right? Or maybe right at $200 million. Either way, Gervonta Tank Davis saying that would lead you to believe that this deal was going to be over $200 million, being that it was going to be bigger than Floyd Mayweather's deal. Rumor came out a few days later, maybe a week or two later, that Tank Davis had signed a huge 6-fight deal with Amazon Prime for $240 million. This is what we were hearing, right? Keep in mind that, as far as I'm concerned, it's still speculation because Amazon Prime never co-signed or confirmed this. There was no actual documentation. I mean, to be honest with you, you have to ask yourself, how do these people even get this information? And where is the documentation to back it up? But look, nobody refuted it, right? Nobody from Gervonta Tank Davis's team or nobody refuted the actual deal being legitimate. So if you do the math, I mean, I could pull my calculator out, but let's say $240 million divided by 6. I don't know. What is that, like about $40 million or something a piece? I don't know. $40 million a fight guaranteed. Interesting, to say the least. A lot of money for Tank Davis. coming off of watching Canelo Alvarez walking away with $30 to $35 million, guaranteeing each one of his fights he had this year, one being with Jaime Munguia, the other one would be Edgar Berlanga. You would think that this is a great deal. I mean, it even makes sense, right? He is one of the biggest stars who's actually on the PBC team, roster, whatever have you. And, Canelo Alvarez really kind of like a visitor, right? Here for a minute, but you can expect him to leave whenever he feels like leaving. So, all right, huge deal. Big fights must be on the horizon. Tank Davis letting the space know that he had plans on fighting certain fighters. I believe Shakur Stevenson was definitely identified as one of them, possibly Vasily Lomachenko. I'm not too sure about how Teofimo Lopez, if he was on the list or not, but maybe even Devin Haney. A bunch of fighters that were on the list. He didn't give all 6 fighters, but gave about a solid 2 to 3 fighters that he was going to fight. Coming on the end of the year, expecting one of those fighters to be who he's in the ring with, and the space is in shock. That is Lamont Roach, right? That Lamont Roach is ultimately who he's going to be pulling up for 130, a WBA champion at the 130-pound weight class division, that he'd be pulling up to the lightweight division to for him to defend his WBA title against a lot of backlash, to say the least, right? Let's be honest. A lot of backlash from the whole boxing space, and I'm being honest with you, even from a lot of his fans who were concerned about the choice in the fighter he picked. Now, I'm building this story up, right? And I'm trying to make sense of it all, because if you think about the idea or the fact that Tank Davis was talking about, and there was mentionings of him having somewhere around a 6-fight deal, if you do the math, just in comparison to how Tank Davis has been fighting for the past few years, he's been fighting about 1, maybe 2 fights in a year. You would think next year would be a busy year for him, even in the busiest year possible. You think maybe 3 fights, including the fight he's having with including the fight that he's having with Lamont Roach in March, which is going to be end of the first quarter of next year. You got to think you don't expect Tank to fight no more than 2 more times next year outside of that fight. And let's be honest, wouldn't be shocked if he only fought twice next year. And that's including the fight he has with Lamont Roach. So when exactly and where exactly does Tank Davis fight 6 fights? And if he isn't going to fight 6 fights next year, and he plans on retiring after next year, well, in some ways, he's not fulfilling his contract, right? But more importantly, why wouldn't he finish out his contract? Why would he allow a $240 million deal to sit on the floor? Why would he sit there and walk away from 5 separate $40 million or $35+ million guarantees to fight whoever? Interesting, right? We might never know the answers to that. Maybe next year that'll develop a little bit more. But like I said, just kind of giving it from the perspective of how I see it from the outside looking in. I didn't see Tank's team on the stage with him. Calvin Ford wasn't there. Kenny Ellis wasn't there. Keep in mind, of course, that these guys are in Baltimore. This is not, and also well aware of this press conference happening, I'm sure at least a week in advance, if not more. Tank Davis looking disturbed and distracted and not focused on the actual event. The event being pushed out 3 times in one day, from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. to approximately 5:30-ish p.m. I didn't look at the time when the actual press conference kicked off. And then the gentleman that works for GTD Promotions, honestly, damn near looked like security, right? This guy had to be like at least 6'5" minimum, right? Tall gentleman, looked like security, to be honest with you. But he did look like a businessman as well, right? Well-dressed man. I don't want to disparage or knock the way he was looking, but just to say, I've never seen the gentleman before. I'm sure he's been part of the team for a long time, but I don't think there's really argument out there to say that we've never seen that gentleman on a stage with Tank Davis representing his interests to the point to where he would come up to the microphone to introduce the WBA lightweight champion, right? So a lot of food for thought, a lot of open-ended questions, right, that we don't have the answers to right now. From my understanding, we'll be seeing this press conference moved over to the DMV in DC on Thursday. I might be there, don't know yet, right? But we'll hopefully get some more answers and get some perspective on what exactly we saw in this New York press conference. Hopefully we'll see Calvin Ford there, Kenny Ellis there. Maybe some questions could be asked by the press there. Maybe we'll get some better perspective as to what we saw today at the New York press conference. But look, that's about it, right? At the end of the day, the press conference came and it went. Lamont Roach also mentioned having his ear to the street that Tank Davis wasn't focused on boxing. He heard that Tank Davis hasn't been living a boxer's lifestyle or focused on boxing. Tank Davis kind of reported or spoke to the idea of that's why he may have canceled some of his social media platforms, that people were looking into his life and he was actually hiding what he's been up to. He laughed it off. So, that can mean that he's been focused on boxing and that he's been doing an extra work on making sure that everything stays tight-lipped, that only the who need to knows of the space are in his business of what's going on, and that everybody on the outside is kept in the dark, which is, look, it's war, right? It's chess, not checkers, right? So he's keeping his cards to his chest, but basically assured Lamont Roach that he should leave his kids and wife at home, et cetera, saying that he expected to stop him somewhere in the 9th round. I think Lamont Roach pretty much laughed it off, and it just seemed like both of them were trying to put some sort of perspective on the event, but overall, the New York press conference was lackluster, to say the least. It just wasn't an exciting press conference. Didn't really build any momentum. I think the hottest point of the press conference may have been when Tank confronted Lamont Roach on a bet for some money, or speaking as Lamont Roach said that if Tank doesn't bring his A game, he may get stopped. And Tank finally showing a little bit of life, reacting to that information and assuring Lamont Roach that because of this, he's going to make this fight extra nasty, leave the wife, leave the mother, leave the family at home, the children at home. And, the regular that you expect to see at a press conference like that, except it took a little while for that to kick off, to be honest with you. And you can't help but, when you watch this press conference, notice that Tank Davis just doesn't seem focused on the actual press conference. He seems just a little distracted. Anybody could have a bad day. Things happen, but it is what we saw. We'll continue and see what happens on Thursday in D.C. at the second part of this press conference and roll out for Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach on March 1st. Guys, let me know what you saw in the press conference. Let me know in the comments. I'm interested in your perspective. I watched it. That's what I thought happened. I'll be tapping in and seeing what happened on Thursday, and we'll rendezvous back here at the Bat Channel, right? ATV Combat Media show. And we'll discuss it then as well, right? Look out for me on Blue Blood Sports. We should be doing a live. I think we might be going in tonight, if not tomorrow, definitely. And obviously, guys, tap into my live tomorrow morning. We'll talk a little bit more about the press conference, but I'm not going to say more importantly, but as well, we'll be talking about fights coming up this weekend. We've got Liam Parra and Richard Hitchens coming in this weekend. We've got Robesi Ramirez and Rafael Espinoza 2 coming up this weekend, as well as Emmanuel Navarrete and what's my guy's name, Oscar Valdez. So we'll be talking about all those fights as well, and talking about everything else boxing. Please feel free to tap in. Check us out in the live. Until the next one, at this point, we out.